We have apologies from Councillor Harrison, Glucky and Keogh, and the Councillor Rennie, and hopefully Councillor Hogan will be joining us online this morning. We'll move on to the agenda itself. We'll go through the usual protocols. All visitors must sign into the visitor book at the entrance to Kilcraigs. This includes staff from other buildings. There is no planned fire evacuation drill or alarm test today. The fire alarm is activated during the visit. You must exit the building immediately. Council officers will direct you to the nearest fire exit and will escort visitors to the building fire assembly point, which is the silver man at the top of Parliament Wall. Kilcraig staff should report to the floors of the assembly point. You should remain at the assembly point to the directed to the occupied building and only re-enter once the fire marshal has advised you it's safe to do so. Please do not attempt to leave the site by vehicle until clear to do so with the fire marshal to ensure that access routes are kept clear of emergency vehicles. Please note that it's a public meeting. The members of the public meeting in attendance. The meeting will be recorded with flag and published online for public viewing. We're taking a photographs of the screenshots, audio and video recordings are not permitted during the meetings unless we express permission of the convener. The members attend much to activate the cameras with the possibility of everybody to join the video. All attendees should be for microphones when not speaking. Please do not comment on items unless invited to do so. Members attending wish to speak at the point, please indicate by clicking on the raise your hand button. Members of the chamber should also raise their hands and will bring in at the appropriate time. Members will not be able to access the papers and meetings to please indicate now. You will hear each item set out the agenda and will invite officers to present the paper and members will then be able to ask questions before the proceeds to debate and sit. Do we have any declaration of interest on the items of this morning's agenda? Okay, so the first item of the agenda is the minutes for the previous meeting, which is from Thursday, 30th of November. I'll just go through them page number. If there's a point at any part of the minutes that you need to raise, then raise your hand. Page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, 11. 13, page 13, page 12.
It's not a mistake when they call for a vote page 13. Is that a small spelling mistake in my name when call for a vote page 13? But I understand why.
Page 14, page 15, page 16 and 17. It's the first meeting on this morning's agenda. The House of Revenue Budget 2455 and Capital Programme 2465 and modification.
Thank you, Convener. Good morning, councillors. The paper in front of you this morning is indicated as the house in the budget for next year and the capital programme for the following year. It seems like a while ago since we started engagement with members in this room, way back in October. We had a quite lengthy members' presentation from the consultants who were helping us at that stage with the business plan. The paper obviously develops through the theme in terms of the work that's ongoing in terms of the business plan development. And the paper outlines the case in terms of the rent increase proposal, in terms of it sets that in context, in terms of the work going forward, in terms of the capital programme. A lot of work has clearly went into this report, and obviously I thank my colleagues for referencing the report and that lengthy list of authors in the background papers of the report. So my thanks for the assistance that they've provided during that period, especially for the accountancy team at the end. Clearly, the paper is proposing a rent increase of 6.7%, and the details are laid out in the paper in terms of the reasons and the rationale for that. So happy to take any questions on the paper that's proposed this morning.
Okay, thanks, Murray. Do you have any questions for Murray? Mr. Connie?
Thank you, Convener. Murray, can we go to page 20, 3.1? This 30% rent to income ratio is a notion, or is it set out somewhere? Page 20. I'm sorry,
Yeah, so that section I referenced in terms of the initial engagement with members, a lot of the work that we initially asked Danny Johnson to do, following feedback from this, especially from members, was to look at the affordability of their rents. And obviously the presentations on our website, should members wish to see that, should be publicly available. The consultant at that stage looked at a variety of different measures in terms of the affordability of rents, but that was one of the notional figures that she chose in terms of that income to rent ratio, in terms of being affordable, in terms of that sort of national indicators that then she then referenced this against. But obviously there is other measures available, printed in the presentation on Clark's web. It referenced about 7 or 8 different measures which you can compare our rents against in terms of that affordability. There is no set national or notional figure. There's just various different pieces of guidance which is referenced.
Okay, so if we accept then that it's a reasonable, if it wasn't reasonable, we would move forward. Do you find it at all concerning that one group is singled out as being very, very close to that 28%? Is that any sort of residents a problem to you?
Yeah, I think that's why the paper goes on to further explore about the differences in terms of our rental charges at various different sizes, which clearly if you're a single adult vehicle, presumably, or a smaller property, and clearly that's where we have a challenge going forward in terms of our comparison with other landlords, where our smaller properties, the difference between our smaller and larger properties is quite narrow, where some other landlords, the difference in terms of that range is a wee bit more spread over. So potentially that's something that we really have to give due nicely going forward.
Yeah, thanks. But I was going to mention that the increments as you go up the room size of the tiny, £2, something like that. I mean, that can't reflect the actual cost of the property. So that's something that doesn't need to look at. I'm glad to hear you say you are going to be looking at that. Okay, moving on page 21, rent consultation, just a broad question. When the questions were being asked of you, what kind of information did they have in advance of the question being asked that would put them in a good position to make a proper judgment on what they were being asked to answer?
You must have a sticky happens. Yeah, so as I say, the rent consultation obviously sent out. And this again, it's come another learning journey for us, where in a number of years in the past we've relied on online surveys and that to deliver this poorer response rate. Obviously, in the last few years we've decided to write to all tenants with an information pack and providing additional information. So as I referenced earlier, we've got information on Clack's web that was referenced within the information pack that we sent to tenants. I think there's a question that was asked in my colleague the other day about checking out how many people have actually accessed that information, which was circulated to members as well. So obviously, it's a bit difficult in terms of trying to get that information over. Obviously, the table outlined at 3.5 was trying to give a flavour in terms of the balance between the different options that were presented there. And of course, we did hold sessions with CPRF, and there were sessions which were publicly announced at various hearings. Unfortunately, nobody took that up. The opportunity for a free cake and coffee to come and join us at the weekend. It is something obviously we are mindful of, especially in terms of the business plan review, that clearly there's some good practice in terms of when you look at the report in terms of the fact in terms of an independent survey where we're getting a 20% sample size in terms of that response rate. And clearly in terms of going forward, especially in the year where we're hoping to move significantly in terms of the business plan, that actually that individual engagement in terms of, and perhaps having some independence that might bring the share such results back from the tenant bodies.
Can you arrange anybody else queuing up to ask questions? Just one. I'll stay on line a bit longer. Yeah, I think on the next page 22, we're going one page at a time. The expenditure rent sector comparisons. Just a question about the 6 councils that are picked there. They've been deliberately picked because they are very like us in profile in terms of their demographics and their issues.
Yeah, so these were the ones again, going back, the ones the consultant set out way back in October. So some of them are in terms of their peer size, a similar landlord size, and some of them are just chosen there in terms of our neighbours, in terms of Fife Council, for example. Obviously, a significant landlord that obviously just speaking through to the person on the board, but so whereas East Renfrewshire and Stirling Council are similar stock size to ourselves, so they would be classed as peers. So there's just examples. Obviously, the Scottish average is also presented in the report for comparison purposes.
Yeah, it's to see that the intervals that on the income side are quite different across the board there, so some more discussion. I can't start now. Yeah, page 24 of the table, and comparison of this event. Spend some time looking at that. And I can answer a question about simple business model. Would you consider that a simple business model that was good was one where income exceeds expenditure, and a model where expenditure exceeded income was bad? Basically, you would agree with that, I think. I know. My point here is that if you look now, given that rents are the income side of the business and wages are one of the expenditure items, logically, you would think as expenses go up, your income should go up to cover the increase in that. But the performance over this past 6 years is woefully in reverse in that box. The fact that the cumulative effect is 24.7% in costs going up and only 12.6% revenue. I mean, that alone is a justification of a significant rent increase at this point in my mind. But I think it's something we need to monitor going forward, because the kitty, the pool that has been lost by not matching is about £6.5 million. That's not a question. The question is, did you know that?
I think that's at £6.5 million, but some of these are a bit to be seen in terms of the context. So clearly going back to this, so this is the table in terms of the length of the last business plan period, which we're still in. Because obviously there was a multi-year wage survey deadline with the unions and causal at that stage. However, what this table doesn't go into the detail of is obviously at the start of this period and some of this period, obviously we had reserves to then call on the CFCR. So, for example, when the rents were chosen to be frozen by council in 21-22, obviously during that period, during COVID, there was a stagnation in the capital programme and we had significant reserves at that stage as well. So some of this needs to be set slightly in context. But yes, the point we've been trying to make with the tenants and those who have engaged with us is similarly in terms of that it's really been the last couple of years where that the sort of wage increases are really shot forward. So the wage proposals are being largely settled at the lower end of the wage demographic for staff, which has put upward pressure because obviously clearly we've got more staff earning at the lower quartile of the wage increase. So that's put additional pressure on. So yes, as wages and the costs go up, we've got requirement in terms of legal requirement to obviously have a set of balanced budget, and clearly the HRA needs to have to be generating surplus to reinvest back in the stock in terms of that whole business planning idea that you led off with.
Which brings me neatly to my next question. On page 27, paragraph 3.35, the statement made in the middle. As members will note, the HRA is not legally allowed to either propose a deficit budget or to be in deficit, with any in-year deficit or loss required to be met in-year by the Council's general fund. Now, when that happens, that is wealth redistribution by stealth, in a way that you're asking the ratepayers who are not benefits of that to pay for the increases that should have been made in the rents. Question I'm asking is, if the following year, when the general fund has had the cough up the previous year, if the HRA makes a surplus, is it morally obliged, legally able to repay that to the general fund?
Yeah, this is about revision 27 of this paper. One of the earlier versions, I think actually did have a concluding sentence in this paragraph. So this paper outlines, this is the legal parameters. Of course, as council are aware, we monitor the budget through the audit committee to make sure that the position going forward. So clearly, if a situation was arising where it was appearing that the HRA was heading to be in deficit, obviously alternative measures could be put in place by council at that stage. However, if it did arise, the general fund then needs to be good. However, as it's actually looked at within our financial accounts, there's a note in the financial accounts. If that did occur, the following year, the HRA has to then repay that back to the general fund.
Yes, this seems to be done. Okay, I'm never let someone else in now. Maybe I've just given myself a break and everything else.
Councillor
Right, 3.27, it looks about unassociated RAC costs. I just wondered if they're able to give us a wee kind of update as to where we are regarding the RAC interrogatory, please.
I would love to. Yes, I think we're going to. The other week, Andy and I had a call from another social landlord and went through the process in terms of their unfortunate discovery of that and chatting through about the process that we went through. And just near the end of the call, it went, and it was great because we've just appointed ex-contractor, at which point our heart sunk. It was like, well, that's the contractor, we've still been waiting on delivering these report. Gavin and Andy, my colleagues here, were sitting beside me, have chased and chased and chased again in terms of trying to get these reports. So again, promises made, not delivered. It's so unfortunate, but I think what's clear, and as the paper says, the commitment given as soon as we get the reports back, the process that we need to go through in terms of looking at those costs and context is we'll need to do some options appraisal in terms of those costs that come back to us. And obviously, clearly at that stage, commitment was given at council November, November, would be then to come back to council with those updated costs, what the recommendations from officers are based on those costs. We would need to work through an options appraisal once we get those costs. But yes, I share your frustrations.
I take it, sorry, I take it all owners are getting kept up to date as to kind of what's happening with that kind of delay as well.
Yeah, it's as it was explained in that paper, there's various WhatsApp groups and whatever on the go. Some of the residents came down to some of the recent federation meetings and engaged through the federation with us as well. I think there's another tenants private meeting due to be set up. Again, they're as frustrated as we are, as you are, as everybody is. The fact that we're not getting these reports, I think to some extent, obviously, clearly they feel like the process has been delayed, but that's a truly unfortunate situation we find ourselves in.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Coyle?
Page 31, 3.55, top line employee related mention. I noticed that the jump from column 2, first figure of column 2 to first figure of column 3, the jump 11%. Now, what line is that? Surely the new settlement is not 11%. And I know guys saying that employers are high pension comes. I think that's like when it's getting up to 11%, factoring in things like NIC and pension contribution.
It's just, sorry, is that the employee related expenditure?
Yes.
No. One of these questions where I don't know the specific answer. If it was the annual budget for last year, so in terms of last year's budget, what was proposed at council was in line with the council's underlying assumption for pay award. And then there was money then put in reserve should the pay award be higher than that. Last year's pay award was clearly higher than the 2% we had assumed within the budget. So then the money then had to come out of the earmark reserve. So clearly, if this is a difference between the annual budget we set for last year, that would account for some of that, because some of the pay award was paid from the earmark reserve that we put to the one side. Plus, next year's budget includes potential for a 4.5% uplift. And the table, which is indicated on the following page, There's also some movement in terms of, last year, it was noted in the paper, there were some staff vacancies which are now going through the process to be filled via the redesign and structure, which will get us to that. But we will look at that in more detail, we'll send that more detailed around to the BF.
Yeah, sorry. Come over one more page, but third item, the internal trading. I know what internal trading is, but I just wonder what, this is having a downward effect on the income side. So what kind of internal trading is it you're giving up that's causing this kind of change, and why are we losing efficiency by stopping internal trading?
So the internal trading is to do with the balance in terms of the work carried out, either for the general fund, which is obviously rechargeable and obviously linked up into the HRA, or in terms of some of the works which we carry out. So based on the assumptions made in the capital programme in terms of delivery, this will be based on the return based on the staff costs that can be either be covered by capital or covered by the general fund. So that will affect for the variance there with the income.
Well, this is where council will be through something at least. The next page, 33, very bottom section, well, second bottom one. This is with a view to considering suitability for installing of air source heat pumps. Are they not being gradually trashed reputationally in terms of comparison of upcoming technology and a different style of heat pump system?
Who said councillor going up for this question? I would, obviously, I maybe have to declare an interest. That we came off the mains gas network. That has not been their impression. In fact, we had visitors on Saturday evening who said it was the best thing we ever decided to do in their house in terms of comfort.
Where do they live?
In Sweden.
Yeah.
The base trial, so the UK government a number of years ago installed 750 air source heat pumps across the UK in a variety of different styles. There was 250 installed in Scotland, 250 in Newcastle, and 250 in the south east of England. That report did a lot of monitoring of those systems in terms of their fit and how well they responded to the various archetypes in terms of the installation. The ones that were installed in Scotland uniquely, the installation of those never had any increase or improvements made to the energy efficiency of those homes. So it's a pure case of comparison between the previous, let's say, gas system that was removed versus the new installation of the heat pumps. Those reports are publicly available, been produced by days, indicating that these systems are generating efficiencies in excess of what they expected, and on occasion, depending on the electric tariff that's used, can be beating the gas mains network going forward. There's people on the line now, obviously, with some of this technology, it's moved at a significant pace. If you asked this question 10 years ago, some of the systems we had installed before us now, quite clearly we would probably agree with you. The technology in these systems has moved on so significantly. A huge investment being made with some very large companies such as Vail, etc., who have taken the technology on a different level. Their understanding in terms of how they operate and how they work most efficiently has also grown during that time in terms of the ones we originally installed in Forest Mill. They were basically attached to the existing system with the radiators left as they were, no change to the pipe. But what we've learned from that process is it needs to be a wholesale change in terms of making sure the pipe network is correct to the size. The full heat loss calculations is done for each of the houses that they're going into, and then following that, they then need to be operated correctly to set up with the right parameters. Now, as James told me before, Murray, you can't go around the house setting these up. So again, it's a movement in terms of, as the report details, some of the movement in terms of use of technology. There is various products which are now coming in the market, which will be able to help the occupiers in these houses set these systems to be run the most efficiently going forward. And some of that could include time of use tariffs, etc. So there is, I think the market is moving in that direction. Certainly, if there's movement in terms of the electricity market, with some of the fees that are charged on electricity are removed, where the balance is obviously set with gas is quite cheaper, there could be a wholesale move in terms of heat pumps. There's a report just out this morning, only 5,000 were installed last year, which is disappointing in Scotland, where we need lots of 200,000 installed to get our net zero targets. So it could be an opportunity for us going forward, talking about internal trading earlier. There needs to be a movement in terms of our own staffing, in terms of actually moving towards this technology to actually understand, fit and grow and learn how to use these systems going forward. I could be more comprehensive if you want. I think I've given enough time already.
So is it the mindset at the moment that these would be more suited to, you know, new buildings, so that it can be, the whole system can be designed into it and what trying to clap 100% of farmers is maybe not going to be financially efficient. But we don't need to go into that. I'm just.
The quick stance that actually is.
You do not have to. Depends on what's. Depends on what's out the best.
Councillor Coyle, you can finish.
I'm just looking to see if I would.
I'll bring it on the fire. Councillor Coyle, you want to finish the vote?
I do. It's a quick follow-up question about that, because with the air source heat pumps, they say about off-the-grid properties and saying like we're going to review them. Do we have numbers? How many we're looking at potentially to install? How many? And why we're looking at off-grid properties and why not all our property?
It'd be not just to say that Lindsay's got an answer, full answer to one of the Councillor points Louise asked earlier. I think the financial terms rather than in terms of heat pumps. So we could never do that. It's in terms of looking at the off the network properties, those are the properties potentially who are paying the most for their heating charges, whereas what we know from the efficiencies that heat pumps can deliver, if somebody's on a direct electric system, a heat pump can deliver 300% efficiency. So those are the ones which we're targeting, is obviously to help those tenants to save some money. But yes, you are right, going forward, it has been some discussions that we've had with Gavin, and that potentially we do need to then, going forward, look at potentially doing some trials with gas properties, doing some comparisons in that next as well.
Councillor Long.
So when we're talking about air source heat pumps, so we are also talking about for the solar panels and battery storage as well, because that then helps the kind of energy efficiency, and also we will be using, I take it, the Industrial Energy Master Plan, and which also help in conjunction with the stock review that we are doing, I take it, to identify these houses that will hopefully be suitable for air source heat pumps. I think it's.
Yes, straightforward answer to that is yes, because obviously with solar panels and battery storage, you can utilise the solar again through the day, heat a hot water, whatever. However, we have to be mindful in terms of, especially as the paper acknowledges, in terms of financial situation going forward. We need to make sure that where we're installing measures that we're getting a return. So, for example, when this has been raised before, installing solar panels where we've got roofs which are perhaps not fully south-facing, etc., and we're not getting that full gain, versus a roof which has got a south-facing slope, means that those properties are not fully benefiting from that solar gain, etc., whereas the other one is. So there's a balance to be struck there in terms of how we look at some of that investment. For example, it might be better for the housing account or the council more generally to look at investments in renewable technology that generates a benefit across the entire tenant base. Battery technology is a slightly different one, because obviously then individual tenants can then benefit from some of these time use tariffs. So yes, some of these are going to have to play a part in some of these business plan discussions and debates as we go forward.
Anything else, Councillor Coyle?
Right, so can I just add right into that? Is it not possible then to consider an entire housing scheme and in use of shared benefits of south facing pitches with the houses that have north facing. So we actually have a collective arrangement within the scheme. Is that a possibility?
You're probably describing exactly where some in the energy market want to take the sector going forward. Because they want it to be much more community-led in terms of the sharing and of that, so that when households are generating, that can then be utilised within a sort of community. That's what we do. So yes, you're quite correct, and that is where, and that's where some of the smart meter technology, the use of batteries, can be assistful in that endeavour. But you're entirely correct. And clearly, as the Council of Laws highlighted there as part of our work in terms of the energy master plan, some of these localised solutions which we're looking towards in terms of what some of that delivery might be. So, and that includes not only looking at the technology in terms of solar panels, battery, but also looking at some of the different heating solutions which might be community-led, because clearly we might have benefits in terms of running a community-led sort of centralised heat pump array across a number of properties rather than individual heat pumps, etc.
Thank you. Right, question one, that's with page 41. And there's maybe a reason this might really hasn't worked out what it is yet. The income at the very bottom of page 41 against Westall is showing £585,000 in the year 24-25. For Westall, the year starts in October, I understand. That's when you expect the premises to be occupied. So we're forecasting 600,000 is coming in the second half of that year. Why is there no forecast over the next few years? What's nothing in there?
That's the capital plan, appendix 2, the reference. That's the capital plan. It's the
Last one. No, I think that's the last of the plans. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Unless you want to pick up on the previous questions.
Thank you. So just in reference to your question, Councillor Conley, regarding the change in budget for the employee costs. So you're right, is that an increase greater than the inflation of the pay award? And it takes into account 4 elements, and they're detailed at the start of the table at 3.56. So that includes, as Mike indicated, the difference between what we assumed in the budget for the pay award for 23-24, which was 2%, and bringing that up to the
Page 32, Lindsay.
yeah, so 422, that was the impact of the 23-24 pay award. And then we've got the increase of the assumed pay award for 24-25. So we've assumed that 4.5%, which is 475,000 increase. We've also built in a reduction in pension contributions. We've got NI and Super to include there as well, but we're actually reducing the pension contribution as we are for the council, which is a reduction of 256. And then we've reviewed our turnover saving against the structure. So we've actually reduced that by 48, as we think we'll have more people in post as our recruitment is going to ramp up through the year. So it's an increase of 689, which is the cumulative total. So it's not just the pay award, which is quite thanks.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any other questions of you?
Yeah, but I was going to say, are you looking at other things like geothermal, or I remember some years ago that was a big aspiration, or are we, sticking to what we know just now?
Yeah, it's a highlight. It's the moment we go to the council and introduce the fact that we're collectively working through Lawrence and Emma in terms of the energy master plan. Obviously, we've got a working group with officers and members who are on the private group, where we're looking at a whole host of different solutions. We've been quite fortunate to have the area mapped in terms of the energy efficiency of our stock. And we've been, obviously, Lawrence and the team have been looking at various different solutions. So, yes, it goes back to the point with the council warning that some of these solutions will need to be community-led, community-driven in terms of what might be the best option for different communities.
Okay, that's us. Well, thank you very much. Councillor McTaggart,
Thanks, Governor. First, I'd like to thank the service for the amazing amount of work that they put into producing this paper, both the housing service and the finance service have put an incredible amount of work into this paper. This paper sets out the financial position of the HRA with a narrative and financial projection that supports the recommendation of a 6.7% rent rise for financial year 24-25. And while it's obvious that as a council we're reluctant to raise rents, or any other charges for that matter, I believe this paper sets out why it is essential that we support the recommendations. Appendix 7 offers a further insight into the scope of the proposals offered in the rent consultation and sets out the expected outcomes for the HRA against each proposed percentage rise, which was presented to our tenants during the recent rent consultation. You'll note that there are defined disadvantages to a rent rise lower than 6.7%, while 7.7% offers a more comfortable position and would provide a bit of headroom in the future. Based on a 6.7% rent rise in this financial year, the table in 3.31 of the report indicates assumed rent rises across future years up until financial year 28-29. And you'll note that these are projected to decrease over time. An increase lower than 6.7% this financial year is projected to result in the need for higher rent rises in future years, higher borrowing, higher interest charges, to keep pace with the agreed capital plan. And while interest rates have levelled out of late, they will not drop back to previous levels. That is a given. Serious consideration of the future of the capital plan is an important element of this paper. It sets out what our tenants can expect in future years. New kitchens, bathrooms, roof and render, new windows and doors. Investment in our housing stock is vital to protect and improve its condition, but just as important to improve the living conditions and home environment of our tenants. As noted in the paper, a rent rise below 6.7 poses a real risk to the future activity of the capital plan, with elements potentially stalling or being withdrawn completely, which would reduce the quality of the housing stock. Over time, the quality would decline further, increasing the need for reactive repairs and placing a burden on the revenue budget. This would place the HRA in an unsustainable position and would create unmet agreements with our regulators, such as Scottish Housing Regulator and the Scottish Government. In the last year, as part of our affordable housing programme, we've exceeded our commitment to the buyback programme with over 40 properties acquired to increase our availability of good quality affordable homes. We've concentrated the acquisitions on the housing need identified by our transfer and application lists, with the intention of continuing that process through financial year 24-25. Again, a rent rise below 6.7% puts that in jeopardy, increasing the burden on our waiting lists. The report notes that 79% of our tenants receive full or partial rent assistance. I'm sure you'll agree that's not something that any local authority should be proud of, and indicated that 79% of our tenants are in dire financial circumstances. 53% of those responding to the rent consultation said they receive all or partial rent assistance, and overall 55% of respondents agreed with a 67% rent rise. However, with 79% of our tenants on full or partial rent assistance, I wonder if many are of a mind that a rent increase doesn't affect them, leading to a reluctance to engage in the survey. We now have a tenant participation officer in the post whose focus will be on actively encouraging tenant engagement and increased consultation opportunities. We're hopeful that this will encourage more dialogue between the council and tenants to promote a stronger relationship. This will be especially valuable in helping to inform and shape our business plan review this year. I'll conclude by saying that the housing revenue account has never been in this position before. where we face the possibility of completely running out of funds to achieve our aims. This scenario is unprecedented in Clackmannanshire and reflects the long-reaching effects of the fallout from the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and not least Brexit. While these things may not be at the forefront of our minds, they have a lasting impact on decisions we make now and possibly into the future. Clackmannanshire Council tenants have always had high-quality, affordable homes and they deserve no less. I hope you'll protect that standard by supporting the 6.7% recommendation. Thanks, Convener.
Thank you, councillor Watson.
Probably second that, please.
Yep, thank you. So people's now open to debate. Any wish to debate here? Councillor Watson.
Was just, see that sadly read that through and, you know, the years I've been here, I've never seen such a combination of circumstances that's driving that increase. You know, so that's the.
Thank you, councillor Hammond.
Here's my target, and others have said about the work that has been into compiling this report, and you're absolutely right. It's a tremendous amount of work, and the staff really should be accredited for the work that they're doing. The standard of housing in Clackmannanshire is high. Compared to other authorities, it's extremely high. In fact, as just recently looked at the houses and then these are rental houses. They couldn't believe the standards of this. So it's something we should be proud of. 6.7% on the face of it, it looks like a huge increase. But when you look at CPI, we're just sitting at 6.7%. So it's only an inflationary, it meets the inflationary target. So it's not really an outward. It's not the highest rent increase it's been in the past. There was 1 year, it was over 9%. That was a high increase. Because inflation back then, I believe, was sitting around about 4 or 5%. There's also in other ISLs, they have a habit of doing rent increases plus 1% to cover the cost of kitchen replacement and all this. But we don't seem to appear to do that. We're building up 1% if they're doing it into the ISL. It makes perfect sense. So, yeah. On the face of it, yeah, as I say, it looks like a large rise. I don't like making the rises of that nature to the tenants. However, the situation with the company is so in the moment means that we don't have any choice. So, okay, myself.
Thank you, councillor Coyne, followed by councillor Clun.
Thank you. Yeah, echo the comments made about the ethics on it. They did a very good paper and actually quite easy to understand in many ways, despite the number of questions I asked. Yeah, I think it's a catch up, a wake up moment really for the whole rental system. It is a shame to impose an increase of 6.7% against a track record of 2.2, 1.5 mil. But I think that exposes the weakness of taking a shy approach to rent increases, that you do end up when the reality comes along, you have to jump. And I think that there's a case to be argued, that I made the point earlier on, for keeping the rises in a sort of lockstep with the rising costs, particularly the wages one. Because as I said in my earlier statement, the rental income would have been £6.7 million more had it kept in lockstep with wages settlements. So I'm just mentioning that as a thought for the future. But great paper, well written, tremendous amount of information there. I'm still being defended by Murray, I say. No hesitation in recommending it.
Thank you, councillor Clun.
Just wanted to say thanks for the work on the paper and also the briefing session which held on the day to go in a little more detail with some of these points. That's been very helpful, giving us the information we need. Like you mentioned, it seems like a big increase, but given that it shows as well within people's affordability range, well below that kind of 30% range of the rent. We're already well below the Scottish average in terms of our weekly rents, and there you go, it allows us to keep up with our plan. I'm quite happy to support the rent increase. I did agree with what Councillor pointed earlier about the range of our rent, very narrow, especially compared to the ones that were detailed here. I think there should be a bigger range so that people in smaller properties should be paying proportionally less, and people in larger properties should be paying proportionally a little bit more to kind of balance that out a little bit. I'm glad to see as well, just about the heat pumps, that we're looking at putting more heat pumps in. Potentially, I would like to see a bit more than that, and let's look at more properties rather than just offer it once. But I'm glad we're kind of making the start in that direction. So yeah, I'm happy to support the paper.
Okay, thank you. No others. Councillor Taggart, oh sorry, Councillor Fortune.
Yeah, welcome the paper. There's a lot of information in there which is kind of quite helpful to arrange us or to allow us to come to a decision on this. I mean, personally, I don't want to be increasing rents at that level, 6.7%. Whilst it might seem a small amount, and while the figures might seem a small amount, £3, £4, £5 can be a lot of money per week to members of our community who are already struggling with the cost of living. However, I think the information detailed in the paper lets us see that there really is no alternative to that at this time. So it's with regret that I will be supporting the increase in the rent levels there, because I do think we have to be bearing in mind the impact the cost of living crisis is having on our communities. And as a social landlord, I think we are kind of duty bound to keep our rent increases as low as possible for our tenants. That being said, the evidence is absolutely clear. We need to increase it at this level. I wouldn't be happy increasing it at any other level. And I think we do need to keep the increases under review in future years, because circumstances might change. I mean, I live in hope that inflation will come down and the cost of living will also come down, which might allow us to make different decisions in the future. But we are where we are, unfortunately, with that. So I just really wanted to say that I don't think anybody wants to be putting additional financial burdens on anybody at this time, but we are left with no choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taggart,
Thanks, Commissioner. Just to pick up on the point that was made a couple of times about the flat rent levels that we want. And the housing service itself, we've had conversations around that, and we are looking at how we might incorporate that into the business plan review. I've actually dealt with somebody the other day who was disadvantaged because they were in a property that the rent was slightly higher than what they were allowed as a housing benefit through the benefit structure that they were in. And it just highlights the fact that people who are in one-bedroom properties are, in the most part, older, vulnerable, disabled, whatever aspect of their life has them in these one-bedroom properties. And I think that they're the ones that are most at disadvantage with this flat rent system. So it is something that I'm keen to look at in the future. Thanks, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. So if you bear with me, I'm just going to run through what it is the paper's asking us to approve and to note. We're asked to approve an increase in level for council housing units to 6.7% for financial year 24-25, which is set at Appendix 6. Approve the same level increase to apply equally to lock-up garages, garage pit site rentals and associated tenancy charges, which is also set out at Appendix 6. Approve the summary housing revenue account budget for 24-25 and set at Appendix 1. Approve the housing capital programme for 24-25, illustrated programme for 28-29, which is Appendix 2. Approve the HMD borrowing requirement for 24-25 through to 28-29, based on the assumption laid out in this report, which is in Appendix 3. We're also asked to note the results of the tenant rent consultation process, and specifically the place Clackmannanshire Parents Residents Federation, set paragraph 5(3). To note that the West Objects and Travel Segment is closed and under redevelopment, council will be asked to ask prior to the opening to approve an input of those homes. To note the progress on the HRA financial business plan, including the risks going forward, the work required to fully update the financial planning model, and otherwise not be to approve the report. Thank
Okay.
you. Item 5 is the transitions policy. Any action on this? Next speaker. Okay.
Thank you, Convener, and good morning, colleagues, this morning. It's with pleasure that I'm presenting this transitions policy, which, as is noted, is a joint piece of work between children's social work and adult social work managed within the Health and Social Care Partnership. I think this is a significant step forward in terms of providing information, advice to young people, their families and their carers around how we address the issue of transitions. Transitions is not a single point, it is an ongoing point for people moving from significant change within the school all day and moving into adult services where there is much more choice and control around how you want to spend your day. So I think for me, the transitions policy is important in the fact we've gone out to parents and families to talk about how we lay this out in a meaningful way for families, for young people, and it's also important in terms of their staff, both adults and children's services, understanding the approach that we want to take to ensure that the transition between children's services and adult services is smooth. You'll note that we've spent a significant amount of time talking to people across the whole system about how we will bring this paper together. And we worked with our colleagues across the People Directorate and the HSCP. And I think we've had significant support from yourself as elected members to bring this paper forward today. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions? Mr. Coyne?
Just one, very simple. On page 52, section 3.4, I'm battling 10 mil different controlled pressure on you. Is there a risk that something gets lost in trying to satisfy all of these requirements or requirements of these various bodies? And if there is there a way of managing that? Is there a central forum somewhere that condenses all this into a single set of rules, or do you have to jump about all the time when you're doing your work?
Thank you for your question. I think it's more about the spirit of all of those individual pieces of legislation and policy. They don't, they sit together nicely and they're focused on different parts of the system. So I think for Gillian and I, it's about listening to the children and young people as they're coming through transitions, to supporting the families through, whether that be through independent advocacy or the carer centre. It's about ensuring that there is, and I quote, a good conversation about what this is. This is our framework. It is what it is in reality. There is a very complex amount of policy and legislation, but I think we are paid to navigate that and support families through these processes. Thank you.
Thank you. So you don't actually have to take, once you make the decision to do something, you don't have to go in with a 25 from checklist to make sure it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin.
They say it's this the way that was read that's mentioned there.
Any other questions? Councillor Henry.
Thanks, Judith, for that question. The hear myself and these stupid things. The support that's given to the actual families, the adults, how close is that given between the children that are coming up for that transition and the parents? How much support are they given?
In terms of the children, the majority of the support is initially provided by education and then in partnership with children's services where they're allocated within our service. So around the time that they're, well, by the time they are 2 years before leaving school, we would be routinely involving parents in conversations and starting the process of planning that. So the support that's around, it's difficult to give a definitive answer to that because it very much varies depending on the need of the child or young person themselves. As you'll appreciate, some have much more complex needs, and we really are rapid a high level of support from a very early point there. Other young people, by the time they're ready to leave school, are ready to manage quite independently. And at that point, the support that's provided is, as Wendy described, more around accessing supports in the community and making sure that families have the adequate advocacy support for that. With the adults.
I think when people move into adult services, the role of the parent is quite different because the young person takes much more choice and control. So when we talk about the legislation, the Self-Directed Support Act is about that individual having choice and control. In response to some of the questions which I think you're asking, we've also established a self-directed support and lived experience group. So we have parents primarily with children with additional support needs who are managing often direct payments and personal assistance, but also who are just trying to navigate through what's quite a complex health and social care system. So we've established this to get really good and robust feedback from people about how we can do this better, how does it work for people, and supporting parents within what's quite a difficult transition process of their child growing up, and that's difficult without additional support.
Can I just add to that? So I think that to mirror that, we have very recently started up a group for parents and young people who are supported by the Children with Disability Service, and transition so far has been the key beat. So thanks. It's good.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lee, did you indicate?
Well, it's been answered there, but I have two questions around really adaptability, some reassurances about service provision. Because some young people in children 12 to 14 might require an extensive level of resource to get through that period. You might not necessarily need that at 16. The situation changes. Likewise, people coming in late to the policy are be able to adapt to effectively combat those needs and make sure that we're not giving resources that are not required and likewise where they're needed when we've got the resources.
Thank you. Yes, we have a duty to do an annual review of ND's assessment and the package of care that's in place. So we have a statutory duty to undertake that, and we're absolutely right. Transition is not an overnight thing. It would change dramatically as somebody's getting older and taking on more responsibility for themselves.
Thank you. Councillor Cullen.
Thanks, Karina. Is the policy, when is it a new thing entirely, or is it really just formalising the practice that you've come to be doing? And depending on the answer to that, how do you propose to measure the success of it?
Thank you. No, this is the transitions policy, and the transitions process has been in place for a significant amount of time. What we're trying to do here is ensure that parents and families and young people have access to the process of transition. So we're helping people to manage their expectation and helping people to make good choices around this.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks, Lynn, for your office and nothing to your paper. Councillor Hamilton, to you.
Thanks, Mayor. There are many milestones that I can hear from constituents. One of the challenging times can be the change of support from leaving education and children's services and moving to adult support services. Maybe ever work this comprehensive policy to ensure a positive transition. It's important that during this process, our young people feel involved and proactive in the next steps, and their voices are heard alongside their families and peers. The timeline sets this out clearly and ensures that young people that active with carers know what to expect, and this can also help manage expectations moving forward. There has been excellent collaboration between education services, children and families, social work, and the health and social care partnership, and also the third sector, SDS Lived Experience Group to bring this paper today. And most importantly, engagement with young people, families, and carers involved in the process by means of an online survey and by listening to their experience and what they would like the transition to look like. I'd like to thank all. It is also good to see this policy as an ongoing good conversation to continue to meet the outcomes for young people and their families. And I'm pleased to propose this paper.
Thank you. Councillor Lindsay to second.
Thanks, Convener. And just back my comments in the back of Wendy, completely support the paper, really welcome the paper. And I think, as you noted by Wendy there around the fact that members have been involved in this as well. I know it's an area that members with a bit of contact about by constituents as well, such as the complexity of this kind of area. So, but ultimately our young people with additional support needs aspire for the same outcomes that other young people do, and that's to lead independent lives, to have a voice and to have a social life. And it's important that transition from education to services and to adulthood is as seamless as possible, as has been outlined. And this can ensure that young people across Clackmannanshire have positive experiences and independence as they move to a really important milestone in their lives. The aim of this particular policy is to support young people, their families as well, and their carers to understand and participate in the process of transitions between different types of services. The transition affects the whole family, and this particular transitions policy provides information for families to support, as easy for me to say, to support a smooth move from education and children's social work services into adult social work services, following a full assessment of need. It's been really beautiful already, the significant stakeholder engagement and consultation that's taken place, and the range of strategic documents that underpin this particular policy as well. And what's been particularly pleasing for me is the way that we've invested time in ensuring that young people themselves and their families are at the heart of this policy development. I'm also pleased to know, and it's written in the paper, that the involvement of and participation of partner stakeholders and the young people themselves does not end with the publication of this policy, but rather creates conditions for ongoing good conversations and effective planning based on individual outcomes for young people and families. And that's a really positive element to outline and reinforce within the paper. So really happy, really welcome the paper from the policy. A really important, complex paper, but critical for our responsible young people and families across the country. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. The paper's now open for debate. Councillor Forsyth.
Yeah, I'm really happy to support the paper and policy there. I'd like to thank Wendy and Gillian for all the work that's gone in there, and it is really good to see the partnership between the Adult Health and Social Care Partnership and our children's services, really focused on delivering the best outcomes for our communities. I think it's really good that this policy is down in writing, so that when parents, carers and young people come to that time in life where changes happen, that they know what to expect. They know where they can go for advice and support. They know what requirements are on the council, and if for any reason that they're not getting the support that they should have, there's something there to back it up, and so that they're able to kind of push for that. It can be really hard for parents with young people with additional support needs to let go. And very often they feel like they should still have a say kind of moving on into adulthood. But we need to remember it's the young person who's paramount in this and should be at the centre and key of all the decisions. And I think this policy lays that out there, so happy to see it here. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Bennett?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm really pleased this has actually come formally into council, for this, because it's something that, over the last couple of years, I've noticed that sometimes it's not quite right. But this is formalising, and this is much better. It's got all family support, as Chair said. It's much better to have everybody together and giving the right opportunities for the children as well as the parents, seeing that it's a fair process for the children who are going through this. It's great to formalise the policy as well, and no one left behind, so that everybody's involved, everybody knows exactly what's happening, and things can go forward without anybody being left behind. So I'm really pleased that papers come to council, and I support it 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McTaggart.
Thanks, convener. As a kinship carer with lived experience of transition, I have to say, or lack of transition, I'm extremely happy to see this paper, because at the time when my niece needed advice and support around transition, it just was unclear, and it's still unclear how she can access the remainder of the transition that she's entitled to. So this will help to confirm what people should expect, so that they know that if they're not getting it, how they get it, and what method to take to ensure that the young person and the family is supported. I'd be keen to speak to Wendy and Gillian offline, if that's okay, just to discuss with them the certain things that I've experienced, and the pattern of laws that will address that. Thank you, convener.
Thank you. Any other contributions? Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I would agree exactly with what James said. I mean, parents and carers can be all at sea when that the kids are there, and they're maybe waiting on a diagnosis, or they just don't know where to go. I was really impressed with the report. It's so well written as well, and in particular 3.1. You know, the explanation of transition, it's not just one event like leaving school back home, that process. It's so true, you know. So yeah, I'm really pleased to see it coming forward, and thanks for the really hard work that's been put in here.
Okay, thank you. Any other contributions to the debate? Councillor Hoy.
Thank you. Just I think picking up on what the last two contributions have said, I think that the important point that's happening here is that there's been problems in the past which haven't dealt with. The people now currently involved in developing the programme, consolidating it and making it work and making it fine. But for the benefit of future generations, it's really important this becomes enshrined in the policy, because it's a place we can drive the system back to get back on track with one as well. We've now got a firm system laid out in a policy which will help ensure that the current standard of care is maintained for years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. If there's no others, Councillor Ham, do you want to sum up? No. Okay, so the papers recommended is that we need to have transition policy for young people in children's services, the adult services, and again for young people, family and carers. So happy to approve the papers. Okay. Item 7 is the future update report.
Actually, convener, good morning, councillors. This is the regular update report to council, which sets out progress with the council's agreed Being Future Target operating model that associates the transformation programme of activity. This paper covers two key aspects. Firstly, a refresh of the governance and reporting arrangements for the programme, and secondly, a thematic update on progress in respect of digital and data transformation work. Following changes to both resourcing and personnel, the Be the Future Board Chair requested a refresh of governance arrangements to ensure that the responsibilities and reporting arrangements remain aligned with the priorities that have been agreed by Council.
The terms of reference for both the Be the Future Board and the Strategic Oversight Group are submitted to Council for approval, having been endorsed by both board prior to this Council meeting today. Paragraph 3.2 of the Council report summarises the main changes made to the documentation following those engagements. Two significant principles in respect of performance management and benefits realisation, and secondly, transparency, are also primary considerations in the oversight arrangements going forward, with the Chair specifically having requested that all members have access to board papers going forward after today's Council meeting. The remainder of the paper provides a thematic update on our digital and data transformation. This is one of Council's agreed priority transformation activities and is now making really good progress with some very exciting developments that are quite imminent. The paper sets out an update across the key programme themes. At the Be the Future Board earlier this week, members received a more detailed presentation on the work in hand and plan for the future. It demonstrated how both the Council's significant investment and the criticality of the tools and approaches that are being developed will support further and future transformation, not just within the Council, but also with existing and potentially new stakeholders and partners. The board have requested that an all-member briefing is set up so that all members also receive this update, and the arrangements for this briefing are currently in hand. I'm happy to take any questions on the paper, supported by Alison Bonner on the detail of the digital and data transformation aspects. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Do we have any questions? Councillor Quinn? Or Councillor Quinn?
Thanks. I was just wondering if any more detail you can provide about our automation, because it's something I've used for several years at my other day job. And I've seen it done well, I've seen it done poorly. We use an awful lot of it. So I'm wondering what sort of plans, are we going to have a dedicated team set up for it? Are we going to provide training to current staff that we have? Like, how are we going to make it work? What do we know just now? Thanks.
Sorry, I was just on the look up at the question set automation.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I'll start, Alison, do you want to come up and join us in the detail as well, please? Thank you. This is one of the earliest pieces of work that we started on the transformation, starting to look at where we could look at high volume transaction activities and think about how we could become more efficient. And obviously very familiar with the theory. What we have been doing was probably a bit more ad hoc. So where we're at now with this programme is we're developing a pipeline of a number of different processes across all council activities that have the potential to be automated and be efficiency releasing, be that in terms of both time, cost, etc. So I think the paper actually refers that pipeline currently has 43 different proposals that are being considered. In terms of how we are, from a principal point of view, just on this very high level, because Alison talks about it much better than I do. But from just in terms of the staff engagement piece, running through the whole digital programme, not just in terms of what we're doing on automation, we are very, very keen to reuse existing learning and technologies that others have had success with. So reuse is a big part of what we're trying to do. But reskill and upscale is a primary consideration in everything that we're doing. So we're really, really keen that we're not in a position of having to bring external support to be able to do things, but that our own staff are able to self-service. But do you want to add to that, Alison?
So we've completed a discovery piece of work where we have gone out and spoken to all the service areas and tried to identify those processes that would be suitable for automation. So like Nikki said, high volume transactional ones, things that are mundane, repetitive, they're the ones that are most suitable. So from that point, we've created a pipeline which has those ones that we're going to be looking at as a team initially that I have. It's trained up in the automation technology, but going forward, we're looking to create a centre of excellence. So that's where we upskill in the organisation in digital skills. So be that on automation or some of the other applications that we're rolling out and forms through the customer service hub. It's very much about how can we upskill and scale that going forward. We have a HR chatbot, which is in testing just now. So that's looking at how we use the investment into Microsoft Teams to take questions from staff around the organisation about HR queries. So that's one of the first areas that we're going to be looking at. We have some interdependencies with some of the work that's going on with IT infrastructure, but coming forward and putting out some of those other automations.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for that, providing a bit more detail. I think it's good that everybody be, again, you don't want to use external providers because I think, yeah, good that we're training and all that, but I think ongoing you need people that are here and then working on it, understanding processes and that are kind of being used. So I think that's good. So we're going to use existing staff, we're going to train up people, kind of be familiar with it. No, that's good to hear. No, thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Quinn. Yes, Councillor Quinn.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we're venturing here into kind of uncharted and disruptive territory with a lot of this stuff, aren't we, going forward here? How are we managing the risks involved? Are we being pioneers in some areas? Are we playing it safe and sitting back without letting others make the mistakes first? What's our approach to that?
So yeah, there is new technology that's coming out, but we are maybe slightly behind where other councils are. So in terms of our discovery work, essentially with automation, we spent quite a lot of time speaking to other councils and trying to identify where have they first introduced automation and where have they seen the savings and the benefits. One of the good things that we have as well with the partner that we're using is that we can share automations and we can share applications and systems as well. And that's the approach that we've taken with our customer service hub, the freedom of information system that's coming forward, and also the comments and complaints. Is really trying to share, that's the reuse aspect of it. Can we share technology, not reinvent the wheel, but actually take some good practice from other councils or other organisations and then embed it in here. So that then allows us to bring a pace to what we're doing.
Excellent. I have a second question, if that's okay for you. And it comes out of a bit of a confusion in my mind between two statements that I made, one on page 82, one on page 84. Bottom of page 82, it says approval of business cases that require funding or investment rest of free council. And on page 84, in the little bullet point section, it says one of the things that the SOG looks to is to approve bids for funding for the transformation fund. Now, they may not be exactly the same thing, but what I thought might be useful is to try and follow the journey of an idea that spreads in some department room 25 upstairs. It's a journey to the end of the line. What does that journey look like?
I'll take that one, Councillor Klein, if that's okay. So you're right, that's between the two different remits of the two parts of the governance. So if you follow in the pound, if we do it in that sense, first of all, in terms of the journey, when the proposals come forward, I've already got some delegation that council has agreed from a financial point of view for some transformation activity. If that can be approved under the delegation of what comes to the strategic oversight group, I will make that decision in consultation with colleagues. There will be other bigger corporate business cases that would, which may actually also include policy considerations that I would not look to take that decision on at the strategic oversight group that will come through to council. So you would be probably taking a decision on a business case that included a range of things about policy, policy change, changing at resourcing levels and budget implications. So that's the only distinction between those two parts of the terms of reference.
Any other questions? No, okay, thanks, Alison. Nikki? Mr. Foster, to move to
Here, I'm specifically proposed the paper which provides an update on the Be the Future programme. Within the paper is contained the updated governance framework confirming the membership of the Be the Future programme group. And I think there's been some confusion over that in recent weeks, so that information is clearly laid out there. I mean, I think the terms of reference are straightforward enough. They're clear, considering some of the terms of reference I've seen in recent times in relation to such groups. I had requested that moving forward all papers are distributed to all members for information, and I would also welcome all members who are interested to join the meetings as observers. So I think there's a lot of work going on within this board that members need to be cited on. Of course, we can read the papers and maybe raise them with any of the groups who do attend the meetings. The first meeting of the new format was there on Tuesday, and I think it went particularly well. Myself, Councillor Benning and Councillor Rennie attended that, and there was a fair discussion around some of the issues that are on the agenda there. today. For the first time, the new template for updating progress on the Green Future priorities is included. I think it provides a clear summary of progress and should allow members to gauge in progress in the areas and any areas of concern. The paper does provide a more detailed description of the digital and transformation stream of the Be the Future programme. I think this is quite key. We've been learning from other councils in Digital Office Scotland, and that's allowed significant progress to be made in quite a short time. And we'll start seeing some of that going live very, very soon. Just like to thank Stuart and Alison and the team for all their efforts in driving this forward. It has not been easy. And I don't think we can underestimate the amount of work that's gone into that. And we are arranging for a members briefing to follow in the near future, which will give a full presentation on the digital side of things. So good to see the paper here and the progress that has been made in other areas, and I'm looking forward to seeing a significant kind of upstep in the progress in other areas for future meetings. Thank you.
Councillor Windsor.
Yeah, just to briefly second, it is a critical piece of work, and particularly given all of what we discussed at council meetings, particularly around pressures, budgets, etc. The work that's been progressed within this particular paper, particularly around digital data, which is the thread that runs through it, is essential. And as we've heard, we are perhaps behind the curve with in relation to some other councils. We know that we've probably taken some harder decisions over the last number of years, so we need to catch up with that in terms of how we can be more efficient utilising digital and utilising that data, which is critical to our plans going forward as well. So yeah, like the council, they're just looking forward to further information coming forward through the board and through the papers, which is ultimately critical to the council's efficiency and effectiveness going forward and sustainability going forward. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. The paper is now open for debate. Any wish to debate? So alongside the points that asked to open the paper and asked to approve the updated governance framework for the future programme that Vince is going to happy to approve. Item 7 is the Wellbeing Hub and Water School project update. Thanks for the paper.
Thank you, Convener, and good morning, councillors. I'm pleased to present this paper, which provides an update on the Wellbeing Hub and Locking School project. The report provides a detailed update in the pre-construction programme, which will take us through to financial close in Q1 2025. A few milestones to include, not including the submission of the pre-plan. So just to confirm, pre-planning is now in, which is another key milestone. Concept design proposals have been submitted and are with the contractors for costings, and the site investigations have commenced on the site as of yesterday, which is great to see there's actually some work on the site. Things are moving. These key activities have been completed on time and the project remains on schedule as per the high-level programme summary provided in the appendices. The report also provides details on the Council's successful application for funding from the Scottish Government's Learning State Investment Programme, LEAPS. The LEAPS funding will support the ongoing revenue costs to operate Locking School once operational. The funding model is a revenue model which should equate to roughly 50% of the equivalent capital cost that is paid over a 25-year period. I have to take any questions on the report.
Thanks, Robbie. Do you have any questions? Yes, Colin.
Probably in 3.5, you talked about full planning application be submitted. Does that mean that this project, just like any other, has to go to the planning department and the council for approval and meet? So they'll have a set of criteria that will apply to that. Okay, so it's going to get the acid test and it goes upstairs, is it?
Yes, this is exactly the same as any other project, even though it's council-led. So we're at the pre-planning submission is now in, so the contractors and their pre-construction manager are working alongside our planning department to make sure that we've got all the information they require for it to go through the planning stage as smoothly as possible. So most of that, any kind of issues or anything that needs to be detailed out would be picked up in pre-planning, and that kind of when it goes to submission, there shouldn't be any stones left unturned before the planning application goes in.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, thanks. 3.9 confused me slightly at the end. Until the project is in construction, the council will not know exactly how much funding it is to receive, as that depends on the Scottish Futures Trust accepting the principles outlined in our bid around the size of Hockey School's capacity. The construction phase and the bid are two different points in time, surely. I don't understand why why the funding wouldn't be known as the examination of the bid is prior to construction. So when it comes to construction, why do you not know what the finance is?
I will refer to my colleague Michael Boyd, who led in the leadership of the answer.
Thanks, Councillor Coyle. The lease bid was approved in principle. It's not like a traditional grant where you apply for a certain amount of money. What you say is you will build the school and run it in accordance with the principles of Scottish Futures Trust. The metrics Scottish Futures Trust use are negotiable in sense of the size of the school. So the model that we have building our school on is based on one that we used in a very similar school in West Lothian, which was accepted by Scottish Futures Trust. So we are hopeful, confident that we will get the funding based on the model that they used and was successful. But until we actually get to construction sign off, they will not actually sign off any grant specific figures.
So it's the construction sign off, it's the trigger, not actually having done the construction.
Yes, that's very
I understand.
It's worth noting, so just to kind of follow up on that, apologies, the whole programme, the whole development will be developed to passive house certification standards, which are higher than LEAP standards. So that tolerance for risk around meeting the requirements for LEAPs is pretty low, because we're actually developing the building to a higher standard than what SAT are.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Robbie. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Kabira. Thanks, Robbie. It's really significant progress again, and obviously we made the commitment to bring an update to each council meeting. We'll continue to do that, and I appreciate the work that's put into this again. But I think what we're seeing is significant progress. In fact, progress from when the paper was written. We've had site investigations now, which is hugely exciting that we're actually seeing work on the site. Down there a number of times, I know the site well, but to actually have investigations work going on, I know it's not been built, but it's a hugely significant step forward. Again, the formal pre-application, planning pre-application has ultimately been taken forward, again, since the writing of this particular paper. So again, huge progress there. It's pretty clear in terms of the processes and phases that still need to be worked through, but that again has been clearly outlined within the paper. But as Robbie's outlined, one probably key element that we haven't really stopped to celebrate is that successful bid for the Scottish Government Learning State Investment Programme funding. That was never guaranteed, but it's critical funding that will support the ongoing revenue costs to support Lockleigh School once it is operational. The funding, again, that's been clarified, should equate to, like to say it will, that should equate to 50% of the equivalent capital cost in its period of a 25-year period. The council ultimately is responsible for the upward capital costs of the building. In terms of the hub concept design, the administration have continued to stay heavily invested in this work through Scott Harrison, Councillor Harrison, and we've already had sight of the initial draft, which again is hugely exciting, and seeing it come to life was actually quite overwhelming, actually, given the amount of work and the amount of investment that's gone into this already. And I suppose if there are any doubters at all still out there that this facility is happening, well, it's absolutely happening. It's on track. It's on time. We can see so far. We can see the phases clearly laid out. We can see the milestones clearly laid out. Those milestones have been hit, and it's been led by an absolutely fantastic delivery team. So can't speak highly of those involved in it. We'll continue to stay close to that as administration. We'll be getting further updates on that next week as well. And yeah, I mean, like I keep saying, if we can't get excited about this, we've got a lot of challenges as a council. This is something to really get us connected as a whole community, and something that we should really aspire to great things with. So thanks to Robbie and the team, and yeah, welcome any other comments from thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Russell.
Yeah, happy just to formally second to thank Councillor Lindsay and Councillor Harrison, as well as all the officers, in taking it to this stage to get early agreement principle to delete funding, and for outlining the programme, which is, has been stated, the pre-application planning stage. Just to thank everybody involved so far, and hopefully the project's on track and within budget. So thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you. People's now open to debate. Does anyone wish to debate it in the public? Councillor Clement.
Thanks, Convener. Just to add to add my thanks to the team for keeping this on track. It's a question that we're asked repeatedly as councillors. Always, it doesn't matter what forum you're in, and well-being hub is raised, whether that's in favour or questions that are maybe of a more negative nature. But to see this timeframe laid out, I mean, that is something that we can actually discuss with people going forward. So it's an excellent paper again for the team, and thanks very much for that.
Thank you, Councillor Dawson.
Questions?
Any other debate? Councillor Ritchie, can you shoot yourself?
I was just going to say one thing briefly. There's a couple of things I meant to say. So in terms of that concept design, that's obviously going to be continuing to be developed. In terms of that bringing it to life piece, because there is ultimately work that needs to happen to ensure that the public are fully engaged and involved in this process as well. There is going to be a stage hopefully coming forward fairly soon. Obviously, there's work to be done on that concept design. What we don't want to do is put images out that may still need to be tweaked and whatnot, but that's not far away, and I think that's going to be an important phase in terms of actually allowing the public to bring this whole facility to life. So that is coming, and it's coming closer each day, so which is positive. The only one thing I did say is we celebrate that leaps bid. I should have pointed out, thanks to Michael Boyle. He's a wealth of knowledge and experience in the service, but he is absolutely critical to that bid going in and the success of that bid. So just I really meant to mention that previously. A huge thanks to Michael for his work and getting that one over the line, because that wasn't an easy task. Thanks.
Thank you. So we've asked to note the updated pre-construction programme and the council's successful application for funding from Scottish Government of the Level Estates Investment Programme. Happy to note. Thank you. So the meeting agenda is additional support for learning strategy.
Yes, indeed. Good morning, Council. I'm here to present the additional support for learning strategy, which aims to deliver inclusive and equitable opportunities for all children and young people, in particular those with additional support needs. In 2019, there was a national independent review of additional support for learning legislation, resulting whereby the Scottish Government and COSLA agreed actions within the following areas. And these themes are children and young people's engagement, participation and rights, parents and carer engagement, participation and rights, teacher and practitioner professionalism and leadership and improvement. All of our actions that we have identified align to one of these themes. This approach has been consulted with children, young people and families, as well as staff, and we've provided information and results within the paper. The strategy provides an overarching action plan, which will have more detailed task briefs within. It is recommended Council approve the ASL strategy, associated ASL action plan 24-27, and provide comment. And here joined with Roger McCormack, who's a Quality Improvement Officer, and we'll take any questions you may have on the paper. Thanks.
Thank you, Colin. Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Chair. I noted in the report that there was 145 people surveyed. I'm just wondering how you plan on capturing the rest of the people in our community that are affected by ASM, whether that be staff, children, or family members. I'm just aware that it won't necessarily be the people of the time to fill out the surveys, but they are in need of the services. There's children with lower attendance at school because of their ASM, homeschooling, potential children with multiple caregivers, or various service users such as health services, where there's potential for them to be lost, but their voices are obviously equally important. So the question really around how can we capture everybody if it's meant to be for everybody rather than those that are taking it like something.
Okay, thanks for your question. Roger will give you a brief update of how we've got to that number already and some of the strategies ahead, and I might come in at the back of that.
Yeah, so the citizen space survey has been sent out around all of our schools and asking schools to promote it as widely as possible, so to capture as many people's voices as possible. But obviously, like you say, people are busy and not always necessarily able to engage. So we're hard on school trying to tap into our parent forums and our establishments. We have some young carer groups that are either associated with specialist provisions, but we've also got our Class B and C, which is parent carers groups. So we're trying to tap in as many different forums to try and get feedback as we can. But I think as an ongoing process, we are continue to try and improve our consultation with both parents and carers, but also the children.
Yeah, just sort of echo on top of that. What we've seen together, the Young People's Voice in Clackmannanshire, is a significant increase in ways we can do that, and that's through a youth forum. We were sitting at many numbers before, we're now up to something like 70 young people from real diverse groups and a real range. So it's certainly got a real voice that we can take these matters to, and really get into aspects such as the law and others. So yeah, lots of strategies to engage. Thanks.
Yeah, any other questions, Councillor Colley?
Thanks, Chair. Pages 124, Colin, and 125. What struck me about the table was that I'd like to get there first. It's to do with question 1 and question 2. And what struck me was the babies for children's and young people's engagement. I was wondering why that would be the case. Now, I suppose there are two obvious possible explanations. One is that the people who said maybe thought we were looking at their particular child and saying, well, this little one is not really up to it, so maybe we can get it good. On the other hand, it may be that people are wanting to have more control of the process of the children's, slightly in violation of the children's and young people, as parents wanting all of the control. How did you interpret that, the reluctance to involve the children, young people, by those not?
Sort of second guessing myself with the sort of maybes as well. I think it's important we reach out and we look to identify that with individuals, because the numbers there, we can actually go back and identify that and do a bit of digging around about that. But I wouldn't want to speculate. We've got very close relationships with all these families because they have so many annual reviews and annual meetings. And in each of these meetings, the voice is heard as well. So this is a sort of overarching question here, but really that detail and that depth comes out through the individual plans of each of the children within Garfield.
Any other questions, Councillor Martin?
Page 123, continue to develop local authority coordinated schools report. Can you tell us a wee bit more about that, Tom, please? And the self-regulation and behaviours and class with. Sorry.
Thank you. There's been a real focus on behaviour in schools nationally. There's been a summit. Clackmannanshire staff have been along to that and played their part. Not every authority was, so it's great to be around that table. What's important in Clackmannanshire is we really understand the nurture principles that we talk about a lot, and readiness for learning strategies. We're very committed to that because it takes into consideration the full background of the young person and doesn't just see sort of the behaviour as a standalone. It is a communication, and we've got really strong strategies. They're informed by our educational psychologists and supported. So we've done lots of training on that. So hope that gives you some reassurance that we see behaviours as a communication, and we've got strategies there. We have got an on-review of this going on with our schools, because we're aware that something that has to be revisited frequently, but also training is provided for our staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Thank you, Colin. Councillor Lindsay, to do the paper.
That's good, yeah. So the aim of this strategy, as it should be, is to deliver inclusive and equitable opportunities for all learners through collaboration with stakeholders, particularly children and young people themselves and their families. The aim must always be to remove any barriers that children and young people may experience, both in terms of being able to fully participate in education and also to develop skills to engage in life beyond school, both now and into adulthood. Clackmannshire's education service, as Colin's already outlined, has identified the four main themes within the ASL action plan as the basis for this additional support for learning strategy. The equitable and inclusive approach to education outlined in the strategy provides us with the opportunity to develop flexible learning solutions, addressing individuals' unique and often changing needs over time requires services to be both flexible and community. Now, GovFEC, which is the national commitment to provide all children and young people and their families with the right support at the right time, and aligning to this particular national commitment will enable us to ensure that all children and young people in Clackmannanshire have the ability to reach their full potential. It's key that this strategy is delivered in partnership with Children's Services Social Services, particularly in relation to the external placement of children and young people with significant social and emotional needs. And as we've already discussed in previous papers, the partnership working is absolutely key to ensure an effective transitions for your children and young people with additional support needs. So the implementation of this strategy, in addition, will further assist in limiting expenditure on specialist placement, as mainstream settings are empowered and upskilled to meet the needs of the majority of children and young people. So just my thanks again to the service for another really quite extensive and detailed and full engagement with children and families. Obviously, there's more that can be and needs to be done to continue to engage with people that perhaps we find that a little bit more challenging to engage with. So that does need to continue, but my thanks to the service for their ongoing work. And the strategy that's been developed in the 3-year action plan that's been put in place. I'll leave it there for now, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hamilton to say.
Thanks, Convener. There's not much more I can add to what Graham has always eloquently said, but we'd also like to thank all those who have contributed and acknowledge the service's work to capture all voices for this paper and on a second this paper.
Thank you. The paper is now open for debate. Who wishes to debate it? Councillor Taggart.
Thanks, Convener. Really welcome the paper, and thanks very much to the service for giving us such a detailed report. Having lived experience of only Alba Academy ASN through my kinship carer role, I could not praise them highly enough. During the time that they were needed, the flexibility around the education was tremendous. The support was tremendous and the empathy was outstanding. So I just felt in to add that, as I say, I only had experience in the Adelaide Academy, but it was absolutely tremendous. And I'm glad to see that this report underpinning the experience that I had. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any other debate? No. Okay, we're going to recommend to approve the ASL strategy and associated ASL action plan for 24-27. Happy to approve? Yep. Thank you. We've got one item left on the agenda which we'll treat as an exempt item. Council happy to deal with that as an exempt item. Okay, I will take a 10-minute adjournment, so 5 past, so just a chance to really do it.
Again, before we do that, probably the road to Damascus is obviously a dual carriageway. In one direction, Councillor Benny has a lightning strike with the second to join the Labour Party. Benny has had a lightning strike and joined the Conservatives. I was never told, but.
It's just that he's swapped then, is giving us three.
Well, the week of here, sort of 5 o'clock.